Hello and welcome to Missing Shift Podcast and this special Thanksgiving, and I guess I should also say the Return of Stranger Things edition. And this is Season 2, Episode 8. And to everyone listening, we at Missing the Shift Podcast and Moonless Media and Entertainment wish you and your family a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. And if you're listening for the first time, well, my name is Wayne Burdett Jr. and I'm your host. As a new listener, you may be asking yourself, why Missing the Shift? Well, in the past, I've spent time on the NASCAR circuit, and in a NASCAR race, if a driver misses a shift, well, it can cause them to get way behind in the race, cause them to have engine failure, engine problems, get in a wreck, or even worse. And this missed shift doesn't just affect them, but also their crew and possibly others around them. Well, isn't this similar to what happens in life? We think we're going in the right direction, and everything might be great, and then all of a sudden we miss that shift with a bad decision that could throw us completely off track and make our lives go into a direction that we never thought it would. For this podcast, we'll look at stories from people that have missed the shift in life and how they got back into the race. And please make sure you follow this podcast on all social media platforms at Missing the Shift Pod, or email me with any shifts you may have missed at info@moonlessmedia.com, and you never know, you may be our next guest. Well, as I said, this is Season 2, Episode 8, and we have a very special episode for you today. A very close, dear friend of mine is on the show today. Ed Stephenson is here to talk to us about his return from being homeless for over a year, and we're looking forward to that. And so let's just dive right into Season 2, Episode 8. Ed, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here, Wayne. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So Ed is currently a base officer at Cayenne Base in Louisville, Kentucky. He's also an instructor of the Kentucky CCDW course and a security guard course. He is co-owner and instructor at the Hill Training Academy, which is an academy that instructs individuals that want to become an executive protection agent. So if you ever have aspirations to protect individuals out there, our links and everything, or their links, will be up on the website. And he's also an American Heart Association instructor. And he is a absolutely great friend of mine, a brother from another mother, I would say. So again, Ed, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Ed, I know that you're now in Kentucky, but and so how's it going?
I love it. Kentucky to me is one of those places it's not many know about it. Winter is a little rough compared to South Carolina, but overall a very beautiful state. Very beautiful state.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned South Carolina. So were you born and raised in South Carolina? Or are you just moved to South Carolina?
Born and raised in Long Island, New York. I left Long Island, or I left New York after 9/11. I moved to South Carolina. My mother was in South Carolina, and I stayed there up until 2021.
Okay. And then you moved to Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about the executive protection side of it. So you're currently the co-owner and one of the founders of the Hill Training Academy. And so tell me what you do. Tell me what I know that used to be in South Carolina. And so tell me what you do there as the co-owner.
As one of the owners at the Hill, what we teach is executive protection or high-level security. We don't like to call it by that B word or bodyguard, because it's more than being a bodyguard. You know, there are a lot of skills to protecting people, and to really get out there and be able to get good clients, it takes that skill set. And it's more than just, hey, I've taken one class. I've went to several different places, not just to become an executive protection agent, but to be able to teach it, because it's always evolving. The bad guys are always doing something different, so we have to be right there with them.
Right. And so how long have you done that?
I was honored this year by Dr. Holyfield for 10 years. 10 years as an executive protection specialist, and over 20 years in security altogether.
So you originally took the course in Atlanta, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And so any high-level dignitaries that you've protected out there that...
I guess on the state or federal level, my highest position is I worked for the Department of State at a Flexi out in Charleston. I worked out there. And being a protection agent doesn't always mean, hey, I'm going to be with a particular client. Yet some of my clients, I've worked with Love and Hip Hop. I've worked with Lil Boosie. I've worked with New York author Kendi X. So it's a broad feel when you say protection. And a lot of people think that every time we're doing executive protection, we have on our suit and ties, and it's not always that.
Who's your co-owner?
My co-owner is Nikita Sherman. He
Okay.
teaches the Hill down in Orlando, Florida. Excuse me, Tampa. He's down in the Tampa
Tampa.
area. Actually, he initially started as one of my instructors, and actually, that's how me and you met, Wayne. You was actually
Absolutely.
an instructor of mine.
Any hiccups along the way with that? Anything that you would change? Has it always been great or?
I think any career, no path that we take will be perfect. And everything is going to have its ups and downs. I think my first couple of years in executive protection, the overall, I don't want to say issue, it was finding the clients, finding where I could showcase my skills. And I was really, really blessed that on my first year coming out, thanks to Dr. Leonard Holyfield and Maurice Thornton, I was able to land a contract with Tiger Swan. And we worked on the DAPL pipeline here. And going out there was literally what opened up the door. The downside was I decided to take some time off of contracting. And what I learned is in contracting, one day off puts 100 people ahead of you. You have to stay in it. You have to stay in it. If you're going to be out there contracting, it is a constant thing. And it's a sacrifice with family. But that would probably be my hardest part of the career, just making sure that I'm staying current.
Now let's switch gears for a little bit,
Sure.
because of course missing the shift is about it could be a personal mistake that you might have made, or a professional mistake that you might have made, and how you overcame that. And certainly we've known each other a long time, so you know why the show's called that. But on the personal side, things haven't always been good for you. I'm just going to be candid. Things haven't always been great. And at one point, you were actually homeless. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. My mom's passed, and I started making poor choices. Poor choices, and I found myself that for almost a year that I was homeless. And it's something that you think it'll never happen to me. It'll never happen to me. I'm always there. Yet I was lucky that I had a friend who had a little shack. It was just big enough for an air mattress and a heater, and it kept me out of the elements. Yet even when I was homeless, I never stopped working. I never stopped praying. I believe that no matter what we go through, there's a message in it, and we have to not listen with our two physical ears. We have to be able to listen with our spiritual ear and hear what's happening. Wayne, brother, that was the hardest thing I ever been through. Ever been through.
Right. Were there moments that you wanted to give up?
Hey, and I'm gonna speak openly. I don't think a lot of people realize in insecurity in law enforcement, in the military, you know, um, when we go through things, that word, do you want to give up or do you feel like giving up? Yeah, we do. We do a lot, and
Mhm.
the saddest part is, I don't want to say everybody has the ability, but we carry a tool that gives us that ability, and you have to stay strong and say, you know what? Nah, nah. And there were many days, Wayne, that I wanted to give up. Many days. But I'm thankful for prayer. Very thankful for prayer.
Right. And so that was almost a year. Um, and in the beginning, there were times you were living out of your car. Is that right?
It was a little U-Haul.
Little U-Haul.
A
Okay.
little U-Haul.
And so eventually, how did you fight your way through that? I mean, there may be an individual who's listening to this show that, they're ready to, just like we were just talking about, ready to give up, or they're going through, something tough in their life. And so how did you come out of it? Like, how did you?
I would have to say prayer. Prayer and even on my darkest days, digging deep within myself. Digging deep within myself. Learning to trust that spiritual voice and not that inner me voice. And I kept working. I think one of the biggest things was I kept working. Even though I didn't have, a traditional home, I had somewhere that I could go and rest my head, and then I would get up and I would still go to work. And
Mhm.
as long as I kept working, things kept happening. Actually, it was at that time that I landed the contract for the Department of State. So even though I was going through something, here it was, I had an opportunity. And landing that contract was one of the things that really, really motivated me to just keep going forward, because here it was, that was the first time I ever had clearance. And having that, it showed that, what, no matter what people have said, no matter what obstacles came before me, I crossed the line. I finished, So if anybody's out there, the biggest thing is, one, never stop praying. Don't think that he's not listening. Don't think that he's not listening, and just keep pushing, keep pushing.
Mhm. And now, coming out of that, after you were in Charleston at FLETC, coming out of that, you landed in Kentucky,
Hmm.
but that wasn't always smooth either, was it?
Well, it was, it's been, we've had some ups and downs, and it's been rough, yet, um, I believe in communication.
Mhm.
You have to be able to talk. One thing about life, nothing's going to be perfect. Nothing's
Right.
going to be perfect. So I've been able to endure. I'm very blessed to have the woman that I have in my life. She keeps me motivated. She keeps pushing me.
Mhm. Sometimes different things that you see, and so you were you were a witness to the horrible tragedy that occurred in Louisville, Kentucky, with the UPS airliner. And so tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I think you were actually right there.
Yes, where I work, we share runways with UPS as well as Muhammad Ali Airport. And as many days that I worked out there, I would look out there and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm in the middle of Louisville. And there's nothing that's going to happen out here." And it changed my life. We had just pretty much got to the end of the day. It was downtime, and I heard the plane kind of revving up, and then I heard a weird noise, which later I found out that weird noise was when the engine was coming off of the plane. And then as I
Mhm.
looked up, I could just see flames just going across the back of the airport. Um, as a first responder, as a protector, the first thing I wanted to do is help. Yet my first job at that time was to hold the restricted area. And that was my job. And just report 2 hours of sitting out in jet fuel in the air, and paper and sparks flying, just dropping out of the sky. It was like living in the worst thriller movie ever. You could hear the explosions. It was a lot happening. And the blessing, and I don't want to say it's a blessing, but 15 minutes prior to that, the wind changed, and that's why the
Mhm.
plane went that way.
Right.
If the wind would have never changed, it would have pretty much came right up the runway in front of me and into the hotel in the interstate on the north side of the airport.
Right. So it could have been a whole lot worse, or would
Yeah,
have been. Would have been.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
even after being relieved that night, I was still in disbelief. I even asked somebody. I said, "Are the pilots okay?" And that showed how disconnected at that time mentally I was from that event.
Mhm. Mm. How did you feel not being able to help? Like, how'd that make you feel?
Uh, I felt useless.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I remember when you first trained me, and you showed me that video. Hey, here's one of your teammates down in the middle of the road. What are you going to do? And I raised my hand. And I said, I'm going in there for my brother. And you said, good answer. And you showed the next slide, and it was two people down.
Mhm.
I felt at that point, even if I knew that I was going to still be in danger from the explosion. As a first responder, that's what we do. That's what we do. and not being able to do that in any form or fashion, whether it was directing traffic or I don't know. I couldn't do anything. Yet my coworkers told me, they said, "Hey man, you did a great job. You communicated. You was one of the first people to communicate. You held the line. You did everything we needed you to do." Yet inside, I felt like I just could have done more.
Right. And so that's kind of taken a little bit of a toll on you.
It has. It's taken a big toll on me. When it first happened, every day I was watching the news and every analysis of it, and watching the death toll go up, and it got to the point where in the mornings going to work, I was having bad anxiety attacks. I'm very thankful for, my family. I'm very thankful for my king, my base family, because they have been there for me. They let me know, like, hey, even though it didn't happen on this base, it happened close enough that it affected not just you, Stevenson, but many people. But we want to let you know we are there for you. So I have to take my hat off to King Air Base in Louisville, man. Those are the 123rd, 123rd, great group of men and women out there.
Right. So I think the death toll now is up to 14. Looking at it a little bit, they said that it struck the UPS building, and awful tragedy to the families and everybody that was affected. Our hearts go out to them. But certainly the show is about helping individuals, and so we learn from everything that happens to us in life, right? And so there might be somebody that's out there listening to the show that feels that same way that you did,
Mhm.
about maybe something personal or maybe something in business, to where it's just like, I'm just useless at my job. I'm being told I'm useless at home. What advice would you give them? You're certainly seem to be on the road to recovery. And I say recovery because, and as a firefighter paramedic myself in the past, I certainly can understand exactly what you're talking about. I mean, there were times that we wanted to do more and we couldn't. And, it sits with you for weeks. You think about it over and over. What could I have done differently? What could I have done differently? And so from about a week and a half ago to today, yeah, I mean, you look like you're improving and doing better. And so, um, certainly you mentioned having those people behind you. And so, yeah, what advice would you give to somebody that might be a CEO of a company? They may be going through some difficult times, and they may just be sitting there and saying, "Hey, I should have never done this in the first place. I'm worthless. I'm useless at this. Everything I touch doesn't work." How could we relate that to the business world?
I would most definitely say, in the business world, it's like the market. It has its ups, it has its downs. It has new innovations that take away old things, and sometimes the old things we just add new technology, and they become useful again. For me, it was something old that my mother had given me, and that was a connection with God. I started to pray more. I started listening to gospel music more than I have ever in my life. And that started to allow me to heal. It allowed me to start listening. I was able to cut out those other voices that said I couldn't, that I wouldn't, you know, and it allowed me to hear, you can, because I created you, that you can. And if you're never tested, the biggest thing that I ask myself is, why did I see this? And I know there were other people that saw it, but why did I see it? And then I started looking up the numbers. It's 857 million, so many hundreds of thousands of chances of seeing a plane crash. You have a better chance of hitting the lottery than seeing a plane crash. And I told myself, I said, maybe God is preparing me for something. Maybe he allowed me to see this to prepare me for something. So I would say to anybody, whether it's your personal life or it's your business life, you know, life is going to have its ups and downs. Life is full of seasons, and sometimes we have these harsh winters in our life. All right. But if we surround ourselves with the right people and the right words, we will see that sometimes it's the small things that we needed to change. And there were some things that this event, I don't want to say it forced me to change, but it allowed me to recognize some things. And one of those things is, I had a session. I had to have a session. And having that session, it allowed me to see that there were some other things that I needed to work on. And working on those things continually have made me better. And I was a person, Wayne, that I didn't believe that talking to somebody could help. And it was amazing that within asking me three key questions, I was able to see that. So once again, I'm thankful for the word, and I would tell anybody, no matter what you believe in, all right, you have to believe in it. You have to stay true to that word. And I think a lot of people, even for me, and I'll speak for me. At some point, I wasn't staying true to the word, and I'm learning. I'm learning. I'm learning every day. Every day.
Mm. And okay, so, and I agree with you 100%. But what about those individuals that might be listening that might not be religious? What would you say to them? I mean, I'm certainly not trying to turn the show into a religious show, because we could talk about that for hours. But if I'm a CEO that's or even a personal or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, but I've prayed and I've done all that, and God's just not interested in me, and I don't even believe He's real. And I mean, what would you what advice would you give them?
Well, I would tell them they know if they believed in that business enough to believe that it is real. When they look in the mirror, they know that they're real. So once again, at least believe in yourself. Believe in that idea that you thought of that at one point was making you tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. Then you had something happen in your life. Maybe your wife left you. Maybe you wind up being homeless. All right. No matter what happened, I knew one thing I could always teach. All right. And I never gave up on teaching. And that's one of the things that helped me. All right. I never gave up on teaching. And I never gave up on myself. So even when I said, you have to believe in something, well, people be like, well, what do you call quote unquote God? Some people call them God. Some people say, well, it ain't about what you call them. Do you call them? All right. So sometimes look for that greatness in yourself. That greatness is in you. And that's what I would tell anybody from a business perspective. It's not about a mystery man because we can always look into that mirror and see the man, the woman within ourselves. However you look at that and tell yourself, you know what? Yeah, I had a bad year. I didn't make my numbers. You know what? Even though I've been divorced, even though I've had to start all over, I still got this. I can still do this.
Mm. And so, what advice would you give to and to those that are listening that sometimes experience far outweighs a wall full of degrees? So, what advice would you give though to somebody who their voices in their head are louder, right?
Mm.
Not only the voices in their head, but I would say the voices from individuals that might have, you mentioned divorce, maybe an ex-wife, that buzz is in that ear, and then you've got other people in your ear because, certainly when divorce happens or breakup happens or anything like that, there's a line drawn to where you know, sides are drawn, right? And sometimes you look at that and you're like, okay, well, I did nothing to that person, so I don't even understand there. But, yeah, I mean, because I know sometimes from talking to you in the past that, those voices were there. And sometimes, because even when you called me, there were times that I even felt bad because I couldn't help you like I wanted to, right? And I know some of your other friends were the same way, right? And so, how did you overcome all of those obstacles together? I know I've thrown a lot at you, so you can, but certainly, right? I mean, you've got an ex-wife in this ear, and you've got friends that you thought you could count on, and they're for some friends that you think you can count on, but all of a sudden they don't return that call, right?
Right.
You know, what would you say? I mean, there's certainly individuals that have that, and so that weighs heavy on them. And I know that you've experienced that, and so yeah, how did you overcome that as well?
I would say with the voices, and this may sound funny, I just gave them something to sing. So instead of them all just saying different things, hey, let me put y'all all on the same sheet of music. All right.
Mm,
Um, And instead of it sounding like voices, it just became this most beautiful chorus or choir. And all I had to do was make sure that I told it what I wanted it to sing. We have to become the directors of our lives. And sometimes it's really hard, man. When we're going through it, it's really hard to find those things deep down inside to quiet those voices. So I gave them some music to sing. Do they try to sing off key at times? They do. They do.
right,
They
right.
do. They try to sing off key, but it's like exercising. We have to keep repeating it. As trainers, as like CMT, we keep our skills up because we keep training. Repetition, repetition. So it's not just showing that, getting those voices to sing that sheet of music one time. It's always telling them, hey, sing this song, and hey, we tired of singing that song. Well, let me get you another song to sing. And it's always something positive. It's always something motivational. The word enemy, and I got this from Deepak Chopra, man, a great author, Deepak Chopra. The
Mm,
word enemy, if you listen to it, it sounds like inner me. And
mm,
sometimes that's our biggest enemy is ourselves. We can always tell ourselves anything we want up here. The biggest fight is saying, you know what, that's not you. That's not you, Ed. You're greater than that. Yeah, you fell down, you had something hard, but trust and believe, trust the process. You fell down because now you know what it is to appreciate certain things. Now you learn that next time when you hear that voice that says take a right turn, you take that right turn. So that's how I've been able, and that's what I would tell anybody. Give those voices something to do. Let them sing something.
mm. Not sure how to follow up that one, but that is great advice. And
Thank
so
you.
now you're married, you're about to teach a course in Kentucky, is that right?
Yes, sir. We're getting ready. I don't want to say to do something really big and great here in Kentucky. Through my research, nobody's really teaching executive protection. And the days of security of what used to be are changing. From my perspective, unarmed security is just in the current state of our union. It's not helping.
Right.
Undertrained. I could show you a million YouTube videos of guys, and you can tell that they haven't had good training. What executive protection is good for, it shows you how to be there and operate and provide a service of help for the most part. That's what I'm doing. If you need me to drive your car, if you were my client, I'm going to drive your car. If you need me to wash your car, I'm going to do it. If you need me to drop your kids off, yet, if things get bad, I have the skills and the ability to take care of the situation. You can take those skill sets, and as you see, you can put me with Love and Hip Hop. You can put me at Kang. You can put me with the Department of State, and that skill is still the same skill. It's
Right.
still the same skill. So I thought, one of the, you know, and I have to open this door because you asked now. So
Go ahead.
I always thought about the wonderful the people who've taught me to be this agent, to be this protector, and Nikita, my business partner, and Dr. Holyfield. Actually, Nikita called me one day and I was at work and he said, hey, I got somebody on the phone. I said, who? And he clicks over and he says, hey, Ed, and it's Dr. Holyfield. The three of us
Wow.
haven't been on the phone together since 2019.
Yeah, I was about to say it's been a while.
Wow. And instantly within the conversation, and I'm going to try to make this as short as possible, the first thing I started thinking was when the three of us were together and we were teaching, we could put together some amazing programs. 30, 40 students in a class going back out, taking a skill set around the world to be good providers of protection. So halfway through the conversation, I said, hey guys, wouldn't it be awesome if the three of us put something together here in Kentucky next year.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of set it up. Yeah, I don't want to say
Yeah.
baited everybody into it. And the room got quiet, and everybody happily agreed. So the last week of March 2026, it'll be March 23rd through the 28th. We are going to have a 5-day executive protection specialist program. Textbook versus real world. That's what the event is called. $1,500. You'll walk away with 5 certifications. Everything from firearms, executive protection, basic life savings, and close quarter combat, which to me are the pillars of what we do. You know, it's one thing to be able to do things with your hands to hurt people, but it's a beautiful thing to be able to do things with your hands and help people. So I believe that if you're going to be a protector, whether it's basic security or executive protection, you should have basic life saving skills. I think it's mandatory.
I would agree. 100%. You know that.
So the most beautiful thing would be if I could get the guy who taught me T triple C.
I knew where you were going with that
I
one.
know, I know, I know.
Yeah.
Hey, look, you can always wish. And the wonderful thing that the funding is starting to come in. So who knows? I may be able to get you here. But I just believe, Wayne, you are a great instructor. So one thing, man, I know my brother has been through some things, and I don't know if anybody's been giving you your flowers. Man, you're great. You're great.
I
You know, from
appreciate
the day first day that I met you, I was so taken over by T Triple C, man. Like, I think that's how we should always train. You know, basic life saving is good, but knowing how to save lives in the heat of the battle is miraculous. And your program, man, your program kept us thinking, kept us on our toes. So, and as a brother, when I was in my storm, you were there for me. Even when you were in one of the worst storms of your life, losing your dad. And brother, I want to say thank you. Like, I got to give you your flowers, so that the world can see. I don't think as men we give each other our flowers so the world can see. It's like I don't want no flowers. I'm a man. I don't need no flowers. So here's your flowers, brother. Thank you very much.
you trying to sound like Dax now, huh? To be a man. But and with that too, I mean, there's certainly a lot in what Ed is saying. I mean, certainly I appreciate it all of what he's saying. But there's two things that I caught in that too. That if you're listening, um, yeah, it was 2019, so 4 years, 6
5 years?
years,
Yo,
six
yeah,
years.
actually 6 years. 6 years.
6 years. So 6 years without talking to somebody because of disagreements. And Ed and I haven't really spoken in about a year and a half to 2 years almost. I mean, besides, little likes and comments on Facebook. But, so if you're listening to the program, I mean, that's one thing like, Ed is saying. I mean, we all have people that are behind us that we think we can count on, and then we have people behind us that we really can count on. And
Mm.
in the business world and in the personal world, I mean, that is so important, right? I mean, we all have those friends that we can call up and, hey, everything will be fine, everything will be fine. But then you got those true friends that you don't even have to speak to them for a year, but when you do need them, they're right there. And, so yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. And I believe my calendar might be clear in March. So we'll talk offline about that. Because certainly it would be great to be back with the group. But if you've been up, I ask every guest this. So we're all blessed in life, and so how do you give back? Like how do you give back? So it may be a charity, it may be um, something you do at church, it may be. How do you give back?
A few ways. One of the biggest ways I give back is where a lot of instructors won't teach a class if there's a particular number. If somebody calls me and they need a class and they're like, hey, I've called everybody else and they're saying it's 3 months out, I'll teach one person. I'll teach one person. All right. I always tell that person, hey, if you come back, I'll always give you a discount, and I honor that. Then I am a free giver. I'm a free giver that if I walk in a store and there's somebody that looks like they're in need, or just sometimes just randomly just paying for somebody's stuff.
It is so funny that you said that because I've watched that guy online that goes behind the elderly people and pays for their groceries and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that? And I was in the grocery store yesterday and I thought that same thing that you just said. I said, man, I should have went up and just tapped it. Right. But he had already checked out and he had already paid. And so I'm like, I got to be a little bit quicker on the draw. But that's
And it's
awesome.
two sides of that because some people may get offended and be like, "Hey, I can take care of myself. I don't need that." But that's one way, and then the other way is talking. COVID really hurt our country. It's one of the things that hurt our country. It caused us to stop talking, let alone the distance and have space, but we stopped talking to each other. Racism and all these things that we had finally started just saying, hey, we can have a all these crazy things came back. So I always take time just to talk to people. And I talk to people not as a Black American, not as a African American, as an American. As an American,
Yeah.
because when I put on my uniform, if someone was to come over here, they're not going to run past me and say, "Oh, we're not going to kill him. He's a Black American." Because I have an
Right.
American flag on my uniform, they're going to take me down. All right, because I speak English, they're going to take me down. So my way of giving back is, I don't want to say doing what God or however you want to look at it, doing what we're supposed to do as humans, just give love unconditionally. Nothing. I don't want nothing in return. Just unconditional.
I'm a believer, so you don't have to not say God. You can say that. I'm just at, but I was just asking that for those that may not. But well, that's awesome. And so, where can people, if they're listening to the show and they're interested in that, and or watching it on YouTube and they're interested in the course, where can they find information about it at?
You
Or if
can
they're
find
listening in Kentucky and they want to, because CCDW is what?
conceal, carry, deadly weapon.
Right. So if you're in Kentucky and you're listening to the show and you want to carry your weapon concealed, you can call Ed. And so where can they find you at, Ed?
You can go to our website, wix.com at I am Nikita. Excuse me, I am Nikita hilltraining.com. You can reach me at 310-365-4936. That is my direct number. You can also find us on the ABC website for Kentucky, and it's under Morgan Security as well as Chernoney Stephenson. Think that's everything. That's what everything. And I do have a no, that is shut down. So that's all of them. That's all of the ways that you could contact me. I used to do the Instagram stuff, and I think I might start going back. But those are the biggest ways that you can find me, and you can see what type of training that we offer.
Yeah, and we'll put those links up on the website, and yeah, we'll put all those links up on the website as well as some other information if you're interested. And so, Ed,
One more
go
thing.
ahead.
One more thing.
I was going to give you the last word. Absolutely, go ahead.
No, Pastor, you always get the last word. I just wanted to say, just in case anyone's out there and you need protection as well, because I've talked about a lot of things, but that's the only thing I didn't touch on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some people think because they have so much money they don't need protection, or they don't have enough money and they can afford protection. Look, get protection. If you need protection, if you're hearing this and you're not sure, one of the things I do is security consulting as well. Let me give you an assessment. If you don't like the assessment, hey, you don't have to take it. But you may find that, hey, you know what? Protection is not as expensive as I thought. So, all Wayne's movie star friends, everybody out there, if you need me, I am there.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that is awesome. Yeah, certainly you're exactly right. I mean, it's not, sometimes it's not just for the rich and famous that need it.
Right.
We see that in the news every single day. And yeah, so Ed, I'll give you the last words. You've spoke a lot. Certainly, if you're listening to the show and you know from being on top of the world teaching executive protection of classes to 30 to 40 people, and just rocking and rolling to homeless, to getting past. I mean, homeless for a year, that's a long time. And you know, getting past that and doing good, and now married in Kentucky and back, working security. And so I'll give you the last word of advice on what you would. Yeah, I'll give you the last word.
I just want to thank, you and Miss and Chef for inviting me on to be able to share my experience. I look at life like, the world is always spinning. So depending on where you're standing, one day you're on the top, next day you're on the bottom. Just wait for your spin to come back around. You'll be you'll be right back there. Give your voices. Don't forget to give your voices a sheet of music. Give them something to sing.
It's a great idea.
And look into them even on your worst day, even when it's hard and the tears are coming down your face. Look into the mirror and tell yourself how great you are, and you will get through this. Wayne, my brother, my love and appreciation from you, man. You are
Absolutely.
one of the truest men that I know. All
I
right.
appreciate that.
Thank you, brother.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Yeah, and like I said, Ed, you fought your way, fought your way back. Some would stay down, and so it's been great to have you on the show. We certainly appreciate it, and like I said, we'll put all the links on the website, and we certainly appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Ed, thank you so much again for coming on the show and sharing your journey. And I know when we talked several weeks ago, it was going pretty rough for you, especially with what you saw with the UPS plane crash. And thank you for sharing your journey from being homeless to where you are today. And thank you so much for listening. And be sure to subscribe so that you know when the episodes drop each Thursday. And follow me at Missing the Shift on all social media platforms. And if you like this podcast, well, tell your friends about it. Word of mouth is the best way to help a new podcast grow. And reach out with any shifts that you may have missed in life. And you never know, you might just be a guest on our show. And that email address is info@moonlessmedia.com. That's info@moonlessmedia.com. And with that, this has been a Moonless Media and Entertainment Podcast production.